Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Satan and Coffee. I do hope everyone is doing well this Wednesday morning, this hump day. I hope you're all getting the day started right with a nice hot cup of coffee and some Satan in your soul. It's good to see everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So this morning's topic, we're going to be talking about the delusion of twin flames. So, yes, the golden voice of Satan is here. Fear not, fear not. So to start this morning's show off right, the phrase, "we're twin flames," has ruined more lives than curses, demons, and hexes combined. Not because the idea of connection is wrong, but because people cling to it like a lifeboat made of gasoline. They think love is supposed to hurt, that the pain means destiny. Let me tell you, that's not romance, that's pathology. Happy left-handed day to all left-handed people. Yes, left-hand path for life. I do hope everyone is doing well. Got an interesting show this morning. So there's going to be an expansion on this. Dyra and I talk about string theory, which is kind of like the newest, craze in, what do you want to call it? Like, I guess spiritual romance, I guess would be the thing, or something like that. Like there's always some type of, in the 80s and 90s, it was, soulmates, and then the 2000s, it was twin flames, and apparently now it's string theory, right? So, which feels like it's derived from physics, but it's a whole conversation in and of itself, which we will be getting into with Dyra. We'll also be covering a little bit deeper the idea of twin flames. Jigsaw, it is 6:45 in the morning. Isn't it too early to be trolling? Like, don't you have some breakfast cereal to eat? Oh dear God, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, there you go. Bye. They'll be back in any second. Like somebody else with another name will be back in any second to do the same thing. I don't know, it's always the same phrase too. Like it's weird. It's weird. I don't know if it's a bot or what. Right? What a strange request. And it's always the same request. Always. Inevitably. Without fail. It's like, it's not even 7 o'clock in the morning. Get a life. Anyway. So, coming in and talking about twin flames. Right, so let's do a little brief breakdown of the history here. So, twin flame is a new age rebranding of older soulmate myths, loosely tied to Plato's Symposium and the idea of split souls. Right, so modern social media and spiritual influencer explosion. It's relationship astrology meets fantasy, right? Is what this is. Now, why the idea it sells and why people pick up on it, right? It promises fate, specialness, and a reason for suffering, right? And this is the big thing, like the idea of soulmates and stuff like that. It's this gallant idea that suffering is suffering for the one that you love is somehow respectable and honorable, and it's just it it's not the psychological trap here. So projection, seeing your own unintegrated shadow and idealized self in another person. Okay, the more magical it feels, the more it's probably projection and not connection. Oh, here we go. I'm not even going to wait for them to do it because I know it's coming. So, again, let me repeat because I keep getting horribly interrupted, right? So, and my mod's not here. I don't know where. He does that to me too. Interesting. Well, it hasn't happened in a while, so. But usually, like at some point when I'm doing lives, some rando pops in and starts spamming that they want to be punished by Lilith, and it's like, the demonic aren't here for your BDSM fantasies. It doesn't work that way. I can get a life. Again, allow me to repeat what it is I'm trying to say here. Right? So projection, seeing your own unintegrated shadow and idealized self in another person, the more magical it feels, the more it's probably projection, not connection, which is something that, like, my younger self, I can most definitely say that I went through that. Like, I would see somebody that, kind of fit the demographic of who I wanted to be with, but also like who I wanted to be. And those are some really, really toxic relationships, like horribly toxic. And cheers, by the way. I hope everybody's got their coffee going or tea. Oh, yeah. See, they're not even waiting this time. All right, Sleepy Joe. There you go. This morning's going to be one of those mornings. Just going to be one of those mornings. Oh, boy. You just got to keep hitting them. Anyway, so the cycle: infatuation, emotional addiction, confusion, and boundary erosion. Right? This isn't union, it's possession, except the entity is your own resolved self-image. That's what this breaks down to, right? So, and I think we've all kind of been through the ringer with this, right? Is that we meet somebody, we become infatuated with that person, we become emotionally addicted to that person, right? Anxious attachment takes over, right? Like we feel like we can't be away from that person. Oh God. And it's one person logging into different accounts. Like, it's one person logging into different accounts that's doing this. And you can tell because, like, they're literally just copying and pasting, because the second one that they did under Mr. Trump, Um, they didn't copy and paste the whole thing because it's supposed to say it twice. They only copy and paste one. Dude, get the fuck off my channel, man. Like, this is somebody with like a childlike mentality sitting there whacking off, right, to doing something stupid, thinking it's hilarious, right? In their mom's basement, covered in chip dust. With empty containers of an unknown substance lying around them. So, yeah. So this is kind of like the psychological take on this, right? And then going further, right? So the emotional addiction kicks in, and then confusion and boundary erosion is kind of like the next part that kind of takes up, right? So the confusion and the boundary erosion is you begin to lose the idea of what healthy boundaries are, like of yourself towards another person. And you get kind of confused as, you know, things start to fall out because, you know, you're putting too much pressure on it. You're trying to move too quickly, you know, and it's just, you know, chaos at that point, right? So the supposed hurt myth, if it's real, it will be hard, painful, or chaotic, right? That's just psychosis. That's just pathology. Like if you believe, like if you're going to sit there and say that, like if a relationship is real, it'll be hard, painful, and chaotic. Yeah, I made that mistake, and I can tell you right now, it's not. You know, it's just painful and chaotic, and it's not. That doesn't make it real. It's not real because it's hard, painful, or chaotic. Pain can be part of growth, but pain is not proof of truth. The abuse loop disguised as spiritual testing, right? Like going through different abuses, you know, and saying, oh, I'm being spiritually tested, right? So, really, now you're down to the backup accounts? My goodness. Even without diagnosable narcissism, sure, Evie. There you go. You are now a moderator. You have the ban hammer. So you're just looking like to say, like, you know, don't even put them in timeout, just hide from channel. Right? You should see like 3 little dots at the end of the message. And then you'll see like options. And you'll see like put in timeout or hide user on this channel. Just do like, you know, hide user on the channel. Appreciate it. So the abuse loop disguised as spiritual testing. So it's to say that like going through certain abuses or certain problems or certain situations, you know, it's, you know, you're being tested, right? That's ridiculous. Even without diagnosable narcissism, toxic behaviors, control, manipulation, gaslighting can destroy a person's sense of self. Why people romanticize this is it makes suffering feel noble instead of calling it what it is, dysfunction, right? And this is something that, you know, again, I've definitely dealt with in my life. I've dealt with the control and the manipulation and the gaslighting, being made to feel like, you know, it's my, you know, fault that things are the way that is, right? And it's just not, it wasn't like, I mean, it's not to say that inside of a relationship like that, like, you know, it doesn't take two to tango. It does. But usually you can very clearly see where a little bit more fault lies, um, and just in the dynamic. And I'm not going to get into specifics of what, you know, I've been through, but once somebody, tries to emotionally manipulate you or make you question who you are, to make you feel like you need to prove who you are more, as a person, and uses that, or different aspects of things, or uses the relationship itself like a point of manipulation, right? Taking the relationship and threatening the relationship, because they know or understand how much you want that relationship. So, they, you know, um, manipulate, you using the relationship, like going like with, you know, um, saying like, oh, well, if you don't do this, or if you don't do that, then, this is going to be over, or I'm going to leave, or, something like that. And, there are situations where that's a valid response, but, every single time somebody gets upset with you for whatever reason, that can become an issue. And it's something that presents all the time. And it doesn't, like, we like throwing around the term narcissist. And the thing is like, everybody at some point in their lives presents with narcissistic behavior, right? And the thing is somebody doesn't inherently have to be a narcissist to be toxic. Like, that's something that kind of needs to be remembered, right? Um, and why it's romanticized is, again, is it makes suffering feel noble. It's like, if you're suffering for something greater than yourself, or you feel like you're suffering for something greater than yourself, then, it's, just, um, it makes you want to go through it a little bit more. It just does. So, thank you, Evie. Appreciate it. So, that's definitely, a part of it. And I know that, like, I used to use the excuse that everyone deserves to be loved, right? Like, when I was in a toxic relationship and I couldn't realize that I was in a toxic relationship, I would be like, well, everybody deserves love, right? And that's just, mm-mm, mm-mm, right? You know, um, the darker grounded model of connection, right? Here, mutual empowerment over obsession. Partners as mirrors, but clean mirrors, not funhouse distortions. Shadow work in relationships. Recognize projections and own them. Use conflict to integrate, not to validate chaos. Right? If we look at Lucifer as a liberator here, not binding yourself to chains labeled destiny. Connection as part, as a pact between sovereigns, not prisoners. Right? Is a big way to, look at it. And actually, hold on a second. Let me do something here real quick. I have an idea. This is how you know it's live. And unfortunately, like, what irritates me about this type of stuff, right, is it makes me feel like I'm doing like a gaming stream, because this is the type of shit that happens in a gaming stream. And it's just kind of pathetic. It really is. Let's see here. So I do apologize that this is kind of fucking up the the flow here, right? But I do want to kind of just go through and just kind of make sure that this is kind of taken care of here. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. There we go. And then we'll just grab this right here. There. That shouldn't be a problem anymore. There we go. All right. So now that that's taken care of. All right. Okay. Mercedes, welcome, 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 welcome. So continuing on, right? So shadow work in relationships, recognize projections and own them. Use conflict to integrate, not to validate chaos. The demonic approach here would be like if you look at Lucifer as a liberator, not binding yourself to chaos or chains labeled as destiny. Connection as a pact between sovereigns and not prisoners. Don't imprison yourself in your relationship. Don't feel like a prisoner. For the first time in my life in a relationship, I don't feel like I'm a prisoner to my relationship. First time. And how to break the spell, right? So, signs it's projection and not partnership. Your identity collapses without them, right? Like you don't know who you are, what you are without that person. I've been there, I've done that, right? Most of your connection is pain and drama. So like if it feels like a soap opera, it's probably not where you're supposed to be. You excuse red flags as part of the journey, right? Again, I think we've all kind of, done that. Very smart. Okay, so I guess we're gonna just do this then. Right, right. So, you know, it happens every little while, right? Yeah, exactly. It happens every little while. Um, it's just I'm just inevitably throwing different combinations of, the phrase into, you know, um, the the automatic moderation tool, and just going from there. Um, because that's really all I can do. Um, and then they'll inevitably find a way through it, and then I'll just have to ban them again. So I'm just throwing in little keys that they regularly use, and it's just going to be auto banning them. So hopefully, I'm speaking truth. There's always toxic energy that tries to stop it. Yeah, exactly, exactly. I feel like that's what it is, right? Like I feel like I got a good topic today, and it's like, I get this jackal. So just is what it is, I suppose. Um, so again, let's go back through this, like how to kind of break this down and identify like you're in a negative situation. So if your identity collapses without that person, most of your connection is pain and drama. It feels like a soap opera. You excuse red flags as part of the journey, right? So practical steps that can be taken: ritual for reclaiming sovereignty, journaling prompts for separating self from other, and building an inner marriage first, individuation before union. Okay, is kind of how we want to look at this. Now, going through a little bit more here. So it's not that I necessarily don't believe that soulmates exist to a certain degree, or soul connections, but the idea of twin flame, I think twin flame came about for people to excuse toxic relationships, and I feel like we do need to really step away from like the Sunday newspaper psychics, right? Like, and I don't know if any of you are old enough to know what a Sunday newspaper is, but like, you get like the astrology section at the back, the Sunday newspaper, right? The big, thick newspaper you get on Sundays. And there's so many people that lived by that shit. Thanks, Evie. Appreciate it. So, see, they identified that like I in the chat, or like in the moderation tools, I banned the little angry face and Lilith. The so-called horoscope page. Yeah, exactly. So that's why he changed it. That's why they changed it from Lilith to Mother of Demons. Oh my god. Yeah, the so-called horoscope page. And there's so many people that just live by that shit, though. That they lived by it. And it's not a bad thing to have a little bit of fun with the horoscope and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes it's surprisingly accurate, but right? Exactly. Um, so it's just, it's one of the things that's like we're kind of like in the modern era where people aren't picking up the Sunday Times, and they're not like reading through their horoscopes and stuff like that. Like I feel like soulmates, twin flames, like they've become the buzzwords that a lot of these, like, I'm just gonna say it. A lot of the buzzwords that these frauds use to rope people in to their psychic readings, talking about somebody's twin flame or somebody, the love of their life, or this, that, and the next thing, and it's, this is your soulmate, this is your twin flame, and it's just, it's absolutely disgusting, right? I mean, there's just like kind of like two ways. Like, there's only like one way. Yeah, I guess people drawn in for more readings. Yeah, exactly, because they want the weekly update and this, that, and the next thing, and it's just ridiculous. It really, really is. And the way that I think about the whole twin flame concept is like, it's a very easy way to burn a house down. It's like it's not two flames, it's one flame, right? Like, your relationship is one flame. It's two people. It's two black flames maybe, but your relationship should be one flame, should be one candlelight. Right? That's it. That's because there's always three parts to a relationship. Three. There's you, there's them, and then there's you as a relationship, as a couple. Three parts. And in order for the third part, the relationship part, to function, you and them need to always be who you are, 100% and completely. If you begin to sacrifice pieces of yourself, like, it's not to say not to compromise. Compromise is extremely important in a relationship, but there are lines of compromise, right? There is compromise and there's sacrifice. And those are not the same thing, right? Like, I've heard people say this, talking about relationships, talking about saying like, oh yeah, well, for things to work, sacrifices need to be made. And it's like, no. Compromises need to be made, not sacrifices. Right? Like, so an example of like a compromise would be like, you want that 65-inch TV on the wall, right? But you don't have the money for it right now, so you got to wait a couple more months before you can get it. That's a compromise. Sacrifices, I don't like the way you're doing your makeup, so don't put it on that way. I don't like the way you're dressing, so don't dress that way. That's making somebody sacrifice a part of themselves, right? I don't like the music you listen to, so listen to it with headphones on because I don't want to hear it. Like, if it's put out that way, I mean, that's not a. God damn you, man. Do you realize the irritating amount of hell that I've been going through this morning? Can you see all the deleted messages? Are you able to see that? Maeve? I don't pay you anything, but I'm going to pay you less. Joking. I had to deputize Evie because I couldn't do it on my own. Oh, that's funny. Actually, one thing. Here, hold on a second, Maeve. You are going to lose mod privileges for a quick second. 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. See your name again. All right, there we go. And boom, there. Now, type something, Maeve. I want to see if it looks different or looks the same. No, you're not punished, but I upped you to a managing mod. You're no longer, you've been a standard mod. You are now a managing mod. Um, so yeah, there you go. Don't do anything stupid because that means now you have access to like my comment section and stuff. Like now it's not just lives. You can manage like my comment section. And you can also upload with content on my behalf, so don't do anything stupid, please. um so yeah, getting back into the meat of this, right? Um those are the three parts of like a relationship, right? Like you've got yourself, the person that you're with, and the relationship. So it's just you know, I think people drown themselves in thinking about the other person, right? And in doing that, they inevitably like begin to lose parts of themselves. They begin to stop compromising and start sacrificing things that they shouldn't be sacrificing about themselves. And if anything, with the left-hand path, what we learn in the left-hand path is that that's not the way to sovereignty. That's not the way of becoming. That's not the way of, building yourself, right? Somebody needs to complement you as well as challenge you in your growth, right? That's how growth happens, to have somebody challenge your ideas or challenge the way that you do things and show you that maybe there's a better way to do it than the way that you've been doing it. And that is the telltale signs of a healthy, good relationship, right? And when we talk about this idea of twin flames, soulmates not so much, but definitely twin flames, because for some reason twin flames has this idea that when something is toxic and obsessive and infatuation, then it is, it's twin flames, that you're supposed to be together. Nobody's supposed to be together, right? Like relationships are work. Like you need to put work in. Like you need to, build those compromises, have those difficult conversations. Communication is extremely important. One of the things that irritates me is, there's people out there that say that, oh well, if a couple is arguing all the time, they're communicating. No, they're not. It's a lack of it's a lack of ability to communicate appropriately is what arguing all the time is, right? And I think that this is one of those ideas that pushes this toxic narrative of twin flames, of people belonging together and needing to be together, or something of that nature. And if you're arguing all the time, it's because nobody's listening. Exactly. If you feel compelled to shrink or dim yourself, just get the fuck out. Just get out. Right? If you feel like you need to dumb down who you are for the person that you're with in any way, shape, or form, then and the thing is Dyer and I have very healthy boundaries, and the thing is we've talked about these boundaries. We've talked about our limitations. We've talked about what it would make us uncomfortable, and what we wouldn't agree with. And here's the thing. Here's the important thing, right? When I sit there and I say, okay, this is something, XYZ is something that, is a boundary I have. I'm not telling the other person that they can't do that. But I'm also saying that I respect myself enough that if this boundary is crossed, there needs to be another conversation that happens. Like another conversation needs to happen about, the longevity of the relationship or the realistic nature of the relationship. Because I respect myself. It's not to say that somebody can't be their own individual and do what it is that they want to do. Like, I mean, you do what you want to do, but at the same time, like, I mean, on both sides of things, like you need to have, that boundary to sit there and say, okay, this is a line. if this line is crossed, that's fine. That's your choice. Choices have consequences, and I need to look out for myself and ask myself, is this something that I really, want to be a part of? And we both have the same boundaries. What applies to me applies to her. What applies to her applies to me. It's a back and forth, right? We both have the same boundaries, right? And we respect those boundaries. And I think it's funny that some people think that like boundaries, like when you're in a relationship, you should just let the person just do whatever they want, whenever they want to, however they want to do it. And it's like, yeah, it's true. It's true. You should. You should allow the person that you are with to be the person that they want to be, because if they are the person that they want to be, that's going to show you whether or not that's the person you want to be with. Allow me to repeat that one more time. You should allow the person that you are with to be the person that they want to be, because allowing them to be the person that they want to be will show you if it's the person that you want to be with. Because somebody that, functions with you isn't someone you should inherently need to ask to do something. Now, conversations need to happen, right? There might be past behaviors or things or patterns that they're willing to, compromise on or, change slightly to accommodate, the new circumstances. But never make demands. Never demand anything of anyone. Right? Because if you have to demand it, then, it's not natural, it's not real. And then that comes with a whole slew of its own problems, right? And I do believe that a lot of the toxicity in relationships comes with, projection. It's a Jungian concept, but you see your disavowed shadow or ideal self in another person. You see, you begin to idolize aspects of this person, which creates infatuation. And, again, like when we look at it from a left-hand path approach, left-hand path is about self-growth. It's about becoming the best version of yourself for yourself. And your relationships complement that, not combat that, right? It shouldn't be difficult to be who you are in a relationship. It should be natural, like breathing, to be able to be who you are as a person and grow. So anyway, everyone, Maeve, you got lucky. The chaos stopped when you came in. That is going to be it for this morning. I feel like the momentum of today's show is all over the place, and I'm dreading trying to clip this damn thing because most of this has been plagued by, the bot spamming the chat. So this is going to be a fun one to try to edit and break up into parts here, but I thank you all for coming in. You guys are fucking amazing. You're the reason I do this. As I always say, hail thy fucking self. I'll see you in the next one. Peace the fuck out, everybody. See you on Friday. Bye.